Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. My name is Biobarakuma Degi Eremiayo. I rise to move the motion that the votes and proceedings as recorded on Wednesday, 10th June 2020 be adopted and approved. I so move. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Distinguished Senator Ezenwa Onyewuchi.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Ezenwa Onyewuchi. I represent Imo East Senatorial District. I rise to second the motion as moved. I so second. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the votes and proceedings of Wednesday, 10th June 2020 be approved, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The votes and proceedings of Wednesday, 10th June 2020 is hereby approved. Petitions? Petitions? Leader of the Senate. Point of order, Senator Abubakar Kyari.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Abubakar Kyari, Senator representing Borno North. I rise on order number 42. 4252, Mr. President. Can I read?
You may read.
The Senate before commencement of the day sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. If the claim is allowed by the President of the Senate and the leave of the Senate is given by at least 1/5 of all senators, the matter shall stand over till the next legislative day. Subsection 3, not more than one such motions may be made at the same sitting. I move to section 52, dispensing with notice. Notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any other proceeding for which notice is required, except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators present. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want to present a motion on the resurgence of killings in Gubbio, Magumeri, and Ganze local governments of Borno North by Boko Haram insurgents. I so move.
Thank you very much, Senator Abubakar Kyari. Because you have come under orders 42 and 52, which require that we put the question, and we require at least 1/5 of senators to enable you present the motion. I will put the question. Those in favor of the motion that we allow him to present his motion, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. You may present your motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. The Senate notes with great sadness and shock the killing of over 90 persons, which includes women and children, when Boko Haram insurgents attacked Podmakolum village of Gubbio local government, Borno State on Tuesday, 9 June 2020. Alarmed by the resurgence of senseless killings by the insurgents in recent weeks, similar attacks had occurred in just less than 3 weeks. 1, 17 people killed in Gajiganna, Magumeri local government on 17th May 2020. 2, 33 people killed in Ganze local government on 22nd May 2020. These attacks have rendered so many homeless and also left over 50 persons critically wounded and are receiving medical attention. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, these attacks are becoming very worrisome in view of the fact that the Nigerian armed forces recently started recording successes in the fight against insurgency. Further alarmed that these attacks, which have led to the massacre of hundreds of people, also includes other heinous acts such as cattle rustling, kidnapping and adoption, and forceful displacement of people from their ancestral communities. Senate is also concerned that with the coming of the rains and farming season, the land is terribly insecure and with marauding insurgents at bay. The consequences of food shortage can better be imagined. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, we have been grieving and crying for far too long. There is an urgent need to draw the attention of the federal government, the armed forces, and relevant security agencies to devise other means or strategy in tackling this horrible and tragic menace. I must commend the efforts of His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Umara Zulum, for his proactive stance. Upon hearing the tragic news on Tuesday night, the governor left Maiduguri at 6 a.m. to visit the scene of the attack. He also offered a change in strategy for the armed forces to carry out a massive operation in and around the Lake Chad shores. Accordingly, the Senate resolved to, 1, urge the federal government to direct as a matter of urgency the Nigerian Armed Forces and relevant security agencies to beef up personnel and equipment deployment to critical areas, especially in and around the Lake Chad shores, in order to flush out the insurgents. 2, urge the federal government to direct National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, and the Northeast Development Commission, NEDC, to immediately send relief materials to the victims of these attacks. 3, urge the federal government to immediately begin the implementation of the recommendations of the report of the Senate Ad Hoc Committee on Nigeria's Security Challenges, need to restructure, review, and reorganize the current security architecture as a way of addressing the nation's current security challenges. 4, observe a 1-minute silence in honor of those who lost their lives in these unfortunate attacks. I so move, Mr. President and distinguished.
Senator Kabir Barkia.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Engineer Kabir Barkia, representing Katsina Central. I rise to second this very, very important motion, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Of course, we know this Senate and indeed, of course, the executive also are doing their best. But this insecurity is, of course, I don't know what is happening. Every day, you see as if maybe it has slowed down, and then you will see all of a sudden, just like the motion my colleague Senator Chari presenting, definitely, you know, we were thinking that now the only problem is this bandit. At least maybe the Boko Haram has subsided. But all of a sudden, we just had yesterday, or the day before yesterday, they came again and talked and then killed many people. So definitely, this problem is, I don't know maybe what I will even say, because it's consistent, it's persistent. Just like the bandits also, just last week, just 3 days back, in Katsina, the same problem. They went Paskari and also killed nothing less than 70 people, Mr. President. And the same thing is happening everywhere. So this Boko Haram, definitely they have to make sure that the federal government has to make sure they did something. Just at least we saw what Chad did. The president himself led it through, and they went, and at least since that time, there was no attack again until maybe recently. So why can't we do the same thing, Mr. President, in this country? Of course, I'm not saying the president should also do, but at least the chief of army staff is there, the chief of air, naval, chief of air, let them also just combine it, and then go and also did something just similar to what Chad did. So that at least to see maybe if there's scope to crush this Boko Haram. So of course there's something also in the bandits, if the federal government could double their effort, of course we hope that maybe something will do at least to minimize, if not stop it completely. So Mr. President, I'm calling on this Senate to definitely maybe urge the federal government to at least accept all the, implement all the prayers in the motion he presented. And also, go to the budgets, particularly in Katsina and Sokoto, Zamfara, and also double their effort. I know, of course, they sent a troop there. They are doing their best, but let them double their effort. so that we can, if at all, we can stop it or maybe minimize it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Allen Dumi.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, we have been doing this for the past 10 or 11 years. That is since 2009 when this started. In 2015, we had some kind of relief when this government took over. But it is not over until it is completely over. Mr. President, when you are the Senate leader in the 8th Senate, we took this seriously. We did a public hearing. You wrote a report. This year, we still did the same thing. Wrote the report, invited everybody. When this unfortunate event happened, I was wondering what to do or what to say. I was expecting this motion, but because I did not see Abu Kyari, distinguished Senator Abu Kyari, I was wondering what we are going to do again. Mr. President, fortunately you happen to come from the Northeast, but the problem is now not restricted to the Northeast. We have the Boko Haram in the Northeast. We have the banditry case, which is re-insurging every time and increasing. We have issues of banditry, herdsman conflict in the North Central and other security challenges. I think what I would suggest in the prayers is, Mr. President, you have to take a step further. It's not just this motion, because motion is kind of advise our resolution. I think you need to see the President and in fact talk one-on-one on these issues, because this war or this challenge of security is doable. We can do it. These bandits are somewhere in the north. The north is not like the forest in the south. Boko Haram, yes, in the Lake Chad fringes, you have, it's an open place. You can see the bandits there. In Gubbio that they attack, if you go there, it's a desert. And as the report came, they were there for 6 hours. So, Mr. President, please go take a step further, and I will amend the prayers, if allowed by my colleagues, so that you sit down with Mr. President and know what they want, so that we can have a timeline, give the security agencies what they need, and let us get this, because it is getting to a very embarrassing level. If you look at when they say they killed Boko Haram, if you look at those people that were killed, you get disappointed. With slippers, they have no boots, and even their AK-47 are those, I believe, they have retrieved from our armed forces when they raided in 2011. It's not that they are getting supplies elsewhere, and they have 3 black spots. One is the Lake Chad fringes, 2 the Mandara Mountains, which is in my local government, and we know their strength. They always come down to steal and harass people, or at least announce their presence. And then in Sambisa, even in that Sambisa, it's not like it's a big or large something that it cannot be addressed. So, Mr. President, please take this personal, meet Mr. President, and sit down with the security chiefs and let's get this business done, because we cannot continue counting numbers and coming here to condemn, observe 1-minute challenge, and then it ends there. I want to thank the colleagues, our colleagues, for supporting this motion, and I will suggest that the voice of the Senate should come out very strongly on this matter. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Distinguished colleagues, let me, this is like our colleagues said, this is something that we have been discussing over and over and over again. What is required of us is to persist until we find the necessary solution. In around 2005 or so, there was a group called Taliban. They appeared in Yobe East, in Senator Brian Gedem's senatorial district around Yunusari area, northern part of Yobe. And that Taliban, I think, was somehow dealt with. Now Boko Haram has metamorphosed from initially a group of maybe religious zealots into now an industry. It is an industry because what they do is no more religious. They have people from different faiths, people from different countries who are part and parcel of Boko Haram. This Senate passed so many resolutions, including the reports of the various ad hoc committees we set up on security. Senator Kabirga once headed a committee on security or insecurity, and they toured many parts of Northwest then. Then I also, like Senator Ndume said, chaired an ad hoc committee. We had public hearing and everything. All the service chiefs were invited, but the problem persists. I don't want to say meeting the president is something that we have to reveal if we do, but of course, it is natural that issues like this will be of interest to us to discuss with Mr. President, and we have been doing that. But what is necessary is for us to persist. Our armed forces have their challenges, and therefore we continue to look at those challenges and try to address them. Where, however, anybody is found wanting, our stand should be that people should occupy offices based on their performance. There is no point if somebody is not registering successes for such person to continue to be there. But that is if you give that person the necessary tools to fight. So we should give them the necessary tools, and then we hold them accountable. We will do that in addition to, of course, meeting with Mr. President, and it's not going to be only Senate President. I will make sure that I have my colleague, my counterpart in the House of Representatives, because this is a national question. I can discuss with Mr. President alone, but I want the National Assembly to come hard on this. So we'll try to do that. With this, I will put the question on the various prayers in the motion. Accordingly, the Senate resolves to urge the federal government to direct, as a matter of urgency, the Nigerian Armed Forces and relevant security agencies to beef up personnel and equipment deployment to critical areas, especially in and around the Lake Chad shores, in order to flush out the insurgents. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, urge the federal government to direct the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, and the Northeast Development Commission, NEDC, to immediately send relief materials to the victims of this attack. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, urge the federal government to immediately begin the implementation of the recommendations of the report of the Senate Ad Hoc Committee on Nigeria's Security Challenges, need to restructure, review, and reorganize the current security architecture as a way of addressing the nation's current security challenges. Those in favor of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And prayer 4, observe a 1-minute silence in honor of those who lost their lives in these unfortunate attacks. Those in, Senator Ndume.
Yeah, President, where I'm going to insert the additional prayers which you even amended. We have gotten to a stage where the prayer, 5th prayer is saying that we should observe a 1-minute silence, but we also agreed that you and your counterpart our counterpart in the House will see Mr. President to further discuss this, and it should be reflected in the prayers.
That should be an additional prayer then. Yes. So, prayer 4, once again, observe a 1-minute silence in honor of those who lost their lives in these unfortunate attacks. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Additional prayer.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we discussed when we are debating the motion, the fifth, is it the fifth or the sixth now? Fifth prayer should be mandate the Senate President and his counterpart, the Speaker of the House of Rep, to meet with Mr. President to discuss this matter of urgent national importance. With a view to finding permanent solution to the problem.
Leader, is that your addition? I would advise that we use the word lasting solution rather than permanent. No, somebody should second this amendment first. Okay, Senator Sani Musa.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Mohammed Sani Musa, Niger East Senatorial District. I stand to second the motion as proposed by Senator Ndume. I so second. But I want to add that it should be nationwide.
If you have an additional prayer, don't come. You can come with your additional prayer. No. Distinguished colleague, those in favor of the additional prayer, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Any additional prayer, Senator Abdullah Adamu?
Very much, Mr. President. I want to add a seventh prayer that the Senate, in collaboration with the House of Representatives, should endeavor to send a delegation, a special delegation, to sympathize with the government and people of Borno State affected this.
Distinguished Excellency, my problem with that will be the ban on interstate movement. If there is a ban on interstate movement at the moment, I don't know how we can do that without. How do we do that? Okay, any seconder? Senator Danjuma Goji.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Mohammed Danjuma Goji, Gombe Central. I stand to second the motion moved by Senator Abdullah Adam.
Distinguished colleagues, let me put the question first. Those in favor of this additional prayer say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Any additional prayer? Okay, Senator Danjumala.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues. I'm Senator La Danjuma from Southern Kaduna. My additional prayer is FEMA should be requested to provide all materials to all places that are affected as well in the whole country. Include, more especially, Brinungwari and Kufana.
Any seconder? Senator Sadiq Umar Suleiman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Sadiq Suleiman Umar, Kwara North. I rise to second the motion ably moved by Senator La Kaduna. Thank you. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the additional prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. Leader of the Senate. Point of order, Senator I.D. Gyang.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to come under Order 43 on personal explanation with the kind permission of the President, let me read the order.
Yeah, you may read.
It says, by the indulgence of the Senate and a leave of the President of the Senate.
Distinguished Senator again, in the motion we have just considered before yours, we are supposed to observe 1 minute silence. I think that was an oversight. Let's observe the 1 minute silence and then we take your personal explanation. 1 minute silence, please. May the souls of our departed compatriots rest in perfect peace. Amen. Senator Gyang, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had your consent to read Order 43, which is by the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate. But no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when his leave to make it is sought. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I have this explanation, personal explanation, that has to do with the non-appointment of secretaries in the departments of the administration of the Federal Capital Territory. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, you will understand that by the role of the National Assembly, we are in the position to legislate for the FCT, just like state assemblies legislate for states. And in the administration of the FCT, the administrative structure requires that secretaries be appointed to oversee the departments. And just as commissioners are to governors, so are the role of these secretaries. For a year now, those secretaries are yet to be appointed, and that is adversely affecting the administration of the FCT. In view of the fact that the efficacy of governance of the FCT is affected by the non-appointment of these secretaries, it is necessary that the needful be done by the Minister of the FCT. In this wise, I'm bringing this to the attention of the Senate and, of course, to the attention of the FCT Minister so that the needful can be done to ensure that the administration of this, the FCT is well structured and that the secretaries are appointed to take responsibility over the departments in the FCT. Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues.
Thank you very much, Senator Giang. Because you have come under Order 43, personal explanation, the matter you have raised is not open to debate. Let me say that I have been told that the Minister of FCT is working very hard to ensure that the secretaries to the various departments in the FCT administration are appointed as quickly as possible. But I agree with you that the absence of the secretaries could, in one way or the other, adversely affect the performance of the administration. But I know that the minister will do everything possible, do the needful, to get the secretaries in place so that he would have the full complement of the administration and management in place. Thank you very much. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of our bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Kola Ademola Balogun on the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Alteration Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration Bill 2020, SB 422, first reading.
1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration Bill 2020, SB 422, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of our bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Stephanus Dungan on the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Alteration Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration Bill 2020, SB 445, first reading.
1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration Bill 2020, SB 445, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Gabriel Torua Suswam on the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration Bill 2020, SB 447, first reading.
1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration Bill 2020, SB 447, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Sadiq Suleiman Umar on the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration Bill 2020, SB 448, first reading.
1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration Bill 2020, SB 448, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, The fifth business of the day is the presentation of our bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Stella Adaeze Odua on the Commercial Agriculture Credit Scheme Bill 2020. Mr. President, we may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Commercial Agriculture Credit Scheme Bill 2020, SB 449, first reading.
Commercial Agriculture Credit Scheme Bill 2020, SB 449, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the sixth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development on the policies and programs for the diversification of the Nigerian economy through the agricultural sector. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Abdullahi Adamu, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Distinguished Senator Abdullahi Adamu.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I am Senator Abdullahi Adamu, and I represent Nasarawa West. I rise, Mr. President, to lay the report of the Committee on Agriculture on the Roundtable Conference to review policies and programs for the diversification of the Nigerian economy through the agricultural sector.
Senator Bima Mohamed Enagi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues. My name is Bima Mohamed Enagi. I'm the senator representing Niger South from Niger State. I rise to second that the report of the Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development in respect of the policies and programs for the diversification of the Nigerian economy through the agricultural sector be laid. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that we receive the report of the Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. You may let the report. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is the consideration of the report of the Committee on Appropriations on the 2020 Appropriation Act Amendment Bill. Distinguished senators will recall that the report of the committee was laid yesterday, Wednesday, 10th June 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Barrow Jibrin, Chairman of the committee, to move a motion for the consideration of the report.
Senator Jibrin Barrow.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Barrow Jibrin. I represent Kano North. Mr. President, I stand to move that this August Senate do consider a report of the Committee on Appropriations on the 2020 Appropriation Act Amendment Bill SB 425. Mr. President, I so move.
Senator Barenada Mpigi, second the motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand right there to second motion as ably moved by the Chairman, Senate Committee on Appropriation, that this report be accepted.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate considers the report of the Committee on Appropriations, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Barrow.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues,
This is the report of the Senate Committee on Appropriations on the Appropriation Act 2020 Amendment Bill. Mr. President, distinguished the bill for an act to amend the Appropriation Act 2020 was read the second time on Thursday, 26th day of May 2020, and was referred to the committee for further legislative action after the debate on its general principles. The bill seeks to authorize the issuance from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the sum of 10,509,654,000 naira only. You may also recall that the 2020 Appropriation Bill was passed into law by the National Assembly on Thursday, the 15th day of December 2019, in the sum of 10,394,362,364,830 naira only, and was assented to by Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federation, Muhammad Buhari, on Tuesday, 17 December 2019. However, before its implementation could properly take place, especially the capital component, the world began to witness the coronavirus disease, otherwise called COVID-19 pandemic, which is ravaging nations and is negatively impacting their economies and disrupting budgets and socio-economic assumptions. The impact of the pandemic in Nigeria is huge, as it has impacted crude oil production as well as the price of the commodity, which accounts for a greater part of our foreign exchange earnings. All of the assumptions which the 2020 Appropriation Act were based are being disrupted, with a sharp decline in the price of crude oil and production output cut by Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. These have resulted in decline in foreign exchange earnings. There is also a decline through stagnation of other economic productive activities, with a concomitant huge loss of custom and excise duties, including value-added tax and other sources of federally collectible revenue. The event of these unfortunate situations have made governments around the world to engage in more spending on their health sectors and social welfare to mitigate the effect of the pandemic on their people. This situation, which can rarely be considered a period of economic and social emergency, has necessitated the need to restructure our revenue and expenditure projections for the financial year. Legislative action. Given the circumstance and the nature of the amendment sought and the limited time provided to the committee to report back to the Senate, the leadership of the Appropriation Committee in both chambers of the National Assembly engaged the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, and the Director General Budget Office of the Federation in all aspects of the bill. And what we are presenting today is the outcome of the interactions and the invaluable inputs made by distinguished senators during the debate on the general principles of the bill. Throughout the processing of the bill, the committee worked with the House counterpart, and what we are presenting to you today is a harmonized report of the two appropriations committee of both chambers of the National Assembly. In fact, the House has passed its own yesterday. Revenue projection. In processing this bill, the committee was also guided by the approved amendment to the revenue projection by the National Assembly as contained in the table below. You can see that. I don't need to read what is in there. Observations. In analyzing the bill, the committee observed that one, there
there were cuts in all items in statutory transfers. 2, there was an increase in the debt service. 3, there was a general reduction in the overhead component of the budget, excluding the health sector. 4, there were reductions, zero provision to some projects in the capital component. 5, there are also new provisions, especially in service-wide bills and capital supplementation to cushion the socio-economic disruptions and shock of COVID-19. Additional requests for fund inclusion in the appropriation. While considering the bill, the committee received requests from the executive arm of the government to include inadvertently omitted or inadequate provisions for projects and programs in the bill as follows. COVID-19 fund, 1.6 billion, contingency recurrent, 7.5 billion, and then contingency capital, 5 billion. Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization, Gavi, 4 billion, 99,648,000 and 171 kobo. The committee wishes to use this opportunity to reiterate the fact that any spending by the federal government from whatever source must be appropriated in line with sections 80 and 81 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Highlights. Distinguished senators, the highlights are on the table of the report before you. As can be seen in the above table, the total aggregate recommended sum is higher than the proposed figure. The increase is a result of the accommodation of the request by the executive arm of government for additional funding for COVID-19 to strengthen the capacity of all states in the Federation to tackle the challenges of the pandemic. Contingency and Gavi immunization and the restoration and upward adjustments of important and people-oriented projects and programs that were in the 2020 Appropriation Act but were either completely removed or substantially reduced in the bill. In the act. In the bill. It is important to also emphasize the fact that this is a period that government needs to utilize every available legal, monetary, and fiscal policies instrument to stimulate the economy. This is essentially what the recommendation in this report seeks to achieve. Recommendation. The committee, having critically considered the circumstances and issues necessitating the amendment bill and convinced of the merit of the increase in the aggregate figure, do recommend the passage of a bill for Act to amend the Appropriation Act 2020 to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the total sum of 3,805,544,664,642 naira only, of which 4,202,775,979,362 naira only is for statutory transfers. 2,951,710,000,000 naira only is for debt service. 4,942,269,251,934 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 2,488,789,433,344 naira only is for the contribution to development fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on the 31st day of December 2020 as contained in the attached schedule and details. Conclusion. Mr. President, honorable colleagues, distinguished colleagues, On behalf of the committee, I wish to thank the leadership of the Senate for all the positive interventions in the process of this bill, which will made the work of the committee less cumbersome. I also want to sincerely thank my colleagues in the Appropriation Committee, the subcommittees of Appropriations Committee, and indeed the entire Senate, in the rare understanding they had demonstrated in the course of this work. We hope that this bill, when approved, will alleviate the hardship that our people are going through in this period of COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. President, I so submit.
Senator Michael Opeyemi Bamidele.
Distinguished President, Your Excellency, and my very, very distinguished colleagues, I rise as Michael Opeyemi Bamidele, representing Ekiti Central Senatorial District, to lend my voice in supporting this report, and in doing this, Mr. President, to also say a few words with respect to some general principles. Number one, Nigeria cannot be an exception to what is going on in the rest of the world. World economies are going into recession. Many are already in recession. There's also a settled economic principle that when an economy is in recession, one of the fastest ways to get out of recession is for that country to spend her way out of recession. In other words, it is not the time to shy away from dealing with critical issues, including issues of critical infrastructural development. There's a need to continue to spend money, and where do you find the money? Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I also want to say for the record that countries all over the world are also borrowing. Essentially, I'd said all of those things just to say this. We are not unmindful of the concern of Nigerians as to the state of our economy and the extent of borrowing that government did before and is doing at this time. COVID-19 was not in anticipation of the Nigerian government, of this parliament, of any country anywhere in the world when the budget 2020 was being put together. It has come, and it looks like something that may be around for a while. We just have to learn to live our life, do our work, and live through observing the basic safety protocols. But in the meantime, there are urgent steps that need to be taken. We need to deal with the issues that have arisen. And of course, the need to go back to the drawing board. So, the whole essence of this entire exercise, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, is to be able to revise the existing budget that was put together for this nation. And I have no doubt that members of the public...
Distinguished colleague, can you round up, please, so that we're able to...
Thank you. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, when it comes to our own role, the question that I would like to ask is, as a parliament, could we have done otherwise? I say to the Nigerian public that my answer is no. Of course, should we have approved the loan request, our concern was only as to what the monies will be used for and the principle, the terms under which these loans were being borrowed. But we could not have done otherwise. I emphasize the fact that we appreciate that it is the people that will continue to criticize government, not the government criticizing the people. It is the people that can dissolve the government, not the government dissolving the people. However, we plead good faith as a parliament that we didn't have a choice because we need to do the needful. Our promise was to run a Senate that will work for Nigerians. And as far as we are concerned, we are on course in that regard. Mr. President, I thank you. And I also notice, and I want to emphasize, that the Parliament, in its wisdom, has also seen the need to restore whatever was taught with respect to the budget of the judiciary, to preserve the budget as it is. I think this is the way to prevent anarchy. And I thank this Parliament for doing that. I thank you, Mr. President, and distinguished colleagues.
Senator Sirajuddin Ajibola. Distinguished colleagues, I think we need to limit ourselves to maybe 2 minutes because we are not, we are just looking at the report. So we shouldn't make it like we are going to debate. Otherwise, it's not second reading. I have about 15 names here already. Yes, it's not second reading. So probably after Senator Sirajuddin, I will take Senator Abdullah Adamu, the Chairman of Finance, probably with some information, and Senator Gabriel Suswam.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, my name is Dr. Sirajuddin Ajibola Bashiru. I represent the people of Osun Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, I will say, in order not to lengthen my submission, that I adopt what has been said earlier on by Senator Babdil Okoyemi. And additionally, it's very important to state on record that contrary to the misinformation that the Nigerian Senate just take hook, line, and sinker what has been sent by the executive. I refer to page 5 of this report. It was clearly stated that the objective of the Nigerian Senate is to stimulate the economy, notwithstanding the challenge of the COVID pandemic. And that additionally, the request that have been sent by the executive has been reconsidered in view of the need for development and people-oriented programs that have been reduced or totally taken away in the proposal. So contrary to the impression that what has been proposed is sacrosanct, the Appropriation Committee has used the imprimatur of the power of the Senate to reconsider and restore back into the budget people-oriented programs that are either being reduced or that have been taken away. It's also important to correct a wrong impression on the status of the health budget in the revised appropriation. Contrary to the belief that the health sector is not well provisioned for, the totality of what is going to the health sector is close to $1 trillion in this budget. You have 336 billion, another 186 billion, another 45 billion. The summation of it surpassed what had earlier on been budgeted for the health sector. But more importantly, is to address the fact that in a situation of economic crisis global like this, we cannot afford not to have deficit financing and look for appropriate way to do so. The progress of the future.
Distinguished Ajibola, please round up. Distinguished colleagues, this is not second reading. We are just going to consider this report, so there is no need for us to be so extensive with this. So you round up, please.
In rounding up, I want to call attention to a slight typographical error on page 5. Monetary and fiscal policy. But the monetary is not properly spelled, and I think for record it needs to be seen. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you,
Thank you very much, Senator Abdullah.
Thank you again, Excellency, the President of the Senate. My very distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Abdullahi Adamu, and I represent Nasarawa West. Mr. President, I crave the indulgence of my very dear colleagues to emphasize the fact that we are not strictly speaking in a second reading exercise. The budget had been brought to this honored chamber, we have debated it, and it was supposed to be in operation. Unfortunately, as the report has indicated, the issue of this COVID-19 came in, as a result of which the need for a review became absolutely necessary. This review has been made, has been proposed here, and the committee has taken the pain to do a very, very thorough job of this revision exercise. I will create the intention of my dear colleagues that time is of essence. Time is of essence. And we should therefore, proceed, Mr. President, to go item by item and pass the budget, the review budget as been proposed. I so move.
Thank you very much, distinguished Senator Abdullah. I think this is the general view of all of us. Leader of the Senate. The Senate should resolve into committee of supply.
President, my highly respected and distinguished colleague, I rise to move the motion for this distinguished colleague to resolve in the Committee of Supply in order to consider this report. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolves into Committee of Supply to consider the report of the Committee on Appropriations clause by clause, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, we go to page 5 of our report. Page 5 of our report, please. Schedule, page 5. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. Page 5, we start with the schedule. Part A, statutory transfers. Statutory transfers, National Judicial Council, Niger Delta Development Commission, Universal Basic Education, National Assembly, Public Complaints Commission, Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, National Human Rights Commission, Northeast Development Commission, Basic Health Care Fund. Those in favor that the schedule Part A stands part total 422,775,979,362 naira only stands part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Part B, debt service, domestic debts, foreign debts, sinking fund to retire maturing loans. Total 2,951,710,000,000. Only those in favor that this stands part of the bill, this clause stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Part C, recurrent non-debt expenditure, Presidency, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Federal Ministry of Information and Culture, Ministry of Interior, Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Auditor General for the Federation, Ministry of Police Affairs, Ministry of Communication Technology, Office of the National Security Advisor, Infrastructure Concessionary Regulatory Commission, Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Ministry of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment, Federal Ministry of Science and Technology, Federal Ministry of Transport, Federal Ministry of Aviation, Federal Ministry of Power, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, Ministry of Mines and Steel Development, Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission, Fiscal Responsibility Commission, Federal Ministry of Water Resources, Federal Ministry of Justice, Independent Corrupt Practices and Related Offenses Commission, Federal Capital Territory Administration, Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, Federal Ministry of Education, Federal Ministry of Health, Federal Ministry of Environment, National Population Commission, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. With total Code of Conduct Bureau, Code of Conduct Tribunal, Federal Character Commission, Federal Civil Service Commission, Police Service Commission, Revenue Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Commission. Gratuities, pensions, pension running costs, pensions, expected retirees, death benefits, administrative charges, running costs, medical retirees, arrears of 2017 to 2018 pension, arrears of 2017 to 2018 gratuity, NHIS military retirees, arrears 2014 to 2018, NHIS military retirees including arrears, pension 2018 arrears, pension, gratuity 2018 arrears, gratuity, administrative charges including verification, pensions, pension running cost, under customs, pensions, pension running cost, universities pension including pensions, parastatals and railway pensions. You have pensions, Department of State Security, pensions including arrears, gratuity, death benefits, pensions, dependence benefits, pension running cost, NELCOM pension arrears, arrears of pension liabilities, arrears of 33% increase in pension rates, defunct privatized agencies pension, payment into redemption fund, pension protection fund, benefits of retired heads of service and permanent secretaries and professors, severance benefits to retired heads of government agencies and parastatals, entitlements of former presidents, heads of states, and vice presidents, chief of general staff, payment of outstanding terminal benefits of Nigeria Airways ex-workers, arrears for vehicles for retired discharged personnel 2017 to 2018, 2019, payment of outstanding death benefit to civil servants, police, group life assurance for all MDS including DSS, insurance of sensitive assets, corpus plus administration monitoring, public service wage adjustment for MDS including arrears of promotion and salary increases, and payment of severance benefits and minimum wage related adjustments, military operations, Lafia Dole, and other operations of the armed forces, settlement of MDS electricity bills, IPs capturing, payment for outsourced services, margin for increase in costs and recurrent adjustment costs, presidential amnesty program reintegration of transformed ex-militants, service-wide training of budget/planning officers on GIVMIS, budget preparation system BPS, as well as monitoring and evaluation of all projects nationwide, special intervention program recurrent, contingency recurrent, international sporting competitions, TSA operations, Employee Compensation Act, Employees Compensation Fund, contributions to international organizations, Gavi/immunization, additional support for universities, take-off grants for the establishment of the NI Pension Board, COVID-19 Crisis Intervention Fund, Constitution Review, CPA, Resident Doctors Hazard Allowance. Total 4,942,269,251,934 naira. Those in favor of these terms pass of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Part D, capital expenditure. Presidency, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Federal Ministry of Information and Culture, Ministry of Interior, Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Auditor General for the Federation, Ministry of Police Affairs, Ministry of Communication Technology, Office of the National Security Advisor, Infrastructure Concessionary Regulatory Commission, Office of the Secretary of the Government of the Federation, Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment, Federal Ministry of Science and Technology, Federal Ministry of Transport, Federal Ministry of Aviation, Federal Ministry of Power, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, Ministry of Mines and State Development, Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission, Fiscal Responsibility Commission, Federal Ministry of Water Resources, Federal Ministry of Justice, Independent Corrupt Practices and Related Offences Commission, Federal Capital Territory Administration, Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, Federal Ministry of Education, Federal Ministry of Health, Federal Ministry of Environment, National Population Commission, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Code of Conduct Bureau, Code of Conduct Tribunal, Federal Character Commission, Federal Civil Service Commission, Police Service Commission, Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Federal Government FGN Special Intervention Program Capital, counterpart funding for donor support programs including Global Fund, payment of local contractors' debts and other liabilities, Galaxy Backbone, GIFMIS, IPs Capital, OSAP Special Projects, OSAP's SDGs payment of ongoing projects, OSAP SDGs Social Safety Net, OSAP Social Safety Net, OSAP Conditional Grants to States, OSAP payment of ongoing projects, OSAP SDGs, SDG Projects 1, recapitalization of development finance institutions, zonal intervention projects, head of service, federal government, staff housing loan board, subscription to shares in international organizations, national development plans, Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, capital exigencies and adjustment to capital cost, contingency capital, grants and donor-funded projects, Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, PEBEC, grants to Bank of Industry to support low-interest lending to SMEs, refund for the acquisition of Yola Disco, Special Intervention Fund, FGN Intervention in Zamfara/Katsina/Borno, Falcon Eye Project, Office of the National Security Advisor, construction of National Assembly Library NILS, digitization archival for Supreme Court proceedings and judgments, COVID-19 Crisis Intervention Fund, incremental capital, total 2,488,789,433,344 naira. Those in favor that this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The total aggregate expenditure is 10,805,544,664 naira, 664,642 naira only. Those in favor that this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Go to clauses. Clauses are in page 3 of the document. Page 3. Clause 1. Those in favor that clause 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 2. Those in favor that clause 2 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 3. Those in favor that clause 3 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 4. Those in favor that clause 4 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 5. Those in favor that clause 5 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 6. Those in favor that clause 6 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 7. Those in favor that clause 7 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 8. Those in favor that clause 8 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 9. Those in favor that clause 9 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 10. Those in favor that clause 10 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 11. Those in favor that clause 11 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 12. Those in favor that clause 12 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Short title. Those in favor that the short title stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The long title, which is on page 2 of the document. Those in favor that the long title stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The last page, we have the explanatory memorandum. Those in favor that the explanatory memorandum stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate. Plenary.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move the motion for Chair to resume plenary in order to report progress. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate reverse to plenary for the Chair to report progress, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate, in the Committee of Supply, considered the report of the Committee on Appropriations on the 2020 Appropriation Act Amendment Bill and approved as follows. Schedule Part A, statutory transfers as recommended. Part B, debt service as recommended. Part C, recurrent non-debt expenditure as recommended. Part D, capital expenditure as recommended. Clauses 1 to 13 as recommended. Explanatory memorandum as recommended. Short title as recommended. Long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of Supply? Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, I rise to move a motion that the 2020 Appropriation Act as amended will be read the third time. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the bill be now read a third time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the bill for an act to amend the Appropriation Act 2020 to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the total sum of 10,805,544,642 naira only, of which 422,775,979,362 naira only is for statutory transfers. 2,941,710,000,000 naira only is for debt service. naira only is for the current non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 2,344,344 naira only is for contribution to the development fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on the 31st day of December 2020, third reading.
A bill for an act to amend the Appropriation Act 2020 to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation of the total sum of 10,805,544,664,642 naira only, of which 422,775,979,362 naira only is for statutory transfers. 2,951,710,000 only is for debt service. 4,942,269,251,934 naira is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 2,488,789,433,344 naira only is for contribution to the Development Fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on the 31st day of December 2020. Third reading, and the bill is read the third time and passed. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. This is one of very important legislations and intervention. The country is waiting for this, and with this, we have joined our colleagues in the House who passed the bill yesterday. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of us, especially our Committee on Appropriations and Committee on Finance as well, all the members on those committees. And for us, this is one way of ensuring that Nigerians feel the presence of government through the various interventions, the programs and projects. We have done this, but we have other things waiting for us in relation to this. We are supposed to ensure that we oversight on these projects, and more especially when we had to borrow money to fund some of these projects. It is very crucial that we ensure that there is value for money. Every project that is mentioned here should be implemented appropriately and accordingly. So all our committees, our standing committees, should ensure that we continue to carry out our oversights. Thank you very much. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the screening of the nomination of Honorable Justice M.B. Dongban Mensin for appointment as the Honorable President of the Court of Appeal. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Opeyemi Bamidele, Chairman of the committee, to move a motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Senator Michael Opeyemi Bamidele.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am Michael Opeyemi Bamidele, representing Ekiti Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, I move that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the confirmation of the nomination of Honorable Justice M.B. Dongban Mensin for appointment as the Honorable President of the Court of Appeal. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator Sirajuddin Ajibola Basiru.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues,
Dr. Surajuddin Ajibola Bashiru. I represent the people of Osun Central Senatorial District. I second the motion ably moved by the Senator Bamdele Okoyemi, the Chairman, Senate Committee on Judiciary.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that we receive and consider the report of our Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Please. Chairman, you may present the report.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, it's my pleasure to present the report of the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the confirmation of the nomination of Honorable Justice M.B. Dongban Mensem, JCA, for the appointment as the Honorable President of the Court of Appeal. The Senate, at its plenary sitting on Wednesday, 10 June 2020, considered the request of His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, for the confirmation of the nomination of Honorable Justice M.B. Dongban Mensem, JCA, for appointment as the Honorable President of the Court of Appeal. This appointment became necessary as a result of the retirement of Honorable Justice Zainab Kachua, CFR, after attaining the mandatory retirement age of 70 years, as provided by Section 291, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. In compliance with this requirement, the erstwhile President of the Court retired on 6th March 2020, thus making the position of President of the Court vacant. Consequently, after consideration of Mr. President's request, the Senate referred it to this committee for further legislative action and to report back within its recommendations. For the avoidance of doubt, Mr. President, the appointment of Honorable Justice M.B. Dongban Mensem, JCA, was made pursuant to Section 238, subsection 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, which provides as follows. The appointment of a person to the office of President of Court of Appeal shall be made by the President on the recommendation of the National Judicial Council, subject to confirmation of such appointment by the Senate. It is on this premise that the appointment of the nominee was forwarded to the Senate. It should also be stated that Honorable Justice M.B. Dongban Mensem is the most senior justice on the bench of the Court of Appeal. She was recommended in order of seniority and preference by the Federal Judicial Service Commission to the National Judicial Council for appointment as the Honorable President of the Court of Appeal. In furtherance of the mandate, the committee requested for and received the curriculum vitae and other supporting documents of the nominee and invited her to appear before it for screening exercise. The committee examined her curriculum vitae and other supporting documents and thereafter screened her. The committee interviewed Honorable Justice Dongban Mensem, JCA, and received explanations regarding her life, work experience, suitability, and competence to assume the position of the Honorable President of the Court of Appeal. Honorable Justice Dongban Mensem hails from Plateau State. She was born on the 13th of June 1957. She holds a Bachelor of Laws degree and Master of Laws degree from Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria in 1979 and 1989 respectively. She was called to the Nigerian Bar in 1980. She also holds a certificate in French from the University of London, Russell Square in 1990. She participated in the compulsory National Youth Service Corps program in Plateau State Ministry of Justice as a pupil state council in 1981. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Honorable Justice Dongba Mensem commenced her career as a magistrate in the Plateau State Judiciary in 1981. She rose through the ranks to become the first indigenous female chief magistrate in Plateau State. In 1990, she was appointed as Deputy Chief Registrar, Superior Court and Protocol Affairs. By dint of hard work, she was appointed as Judge of High Court of Plateau State in 1993. Thereafter, she transferred her service from Plateau State Judiciary to the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, as FCT High Court Judge in 1997. In 2003, Honorable Justice Dongba Mensem was appointed as a Justice of the Court of Appeal. She has served as Presiding Justice of Jos, Yola, Ibadan, and Enugu divisions of the Court of Appeal. She was appointed as the Acting President of the Court of Appeal on the 6th of March 2020 when Honorable Justice Zainab Okachua, CFR, retired. Thereafter, she was appointed by Mr. President upon the recommendation of the National Judicial Council to fill up the vacant position of the Honorable President of the Court of Appeal. Apart from her regular duties as a judge, she has served as chairperson and member of various tribunals, ad hoc investigative panels, and committees. She has also served as the pioneer board member, legal advisor of the Plateau State Commission for Women, as well as a part-time lecturer with the University of Jos. She is the founder of Pa William Mensem Education and Scholarship Foundation and founder Quadas Road Safety Demand Trust Fund, an NGO. She is a recipient of Plateau State Miss Heritage Award in recognition of her contribution to education and role model to girl child in 2018. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Honorable Justice Mensem is the author of the law book, The Defendant. She has presented numerous papers during seminars and workshops, among which are social justice under the Constitution of Nigeria and several other publications which I will not bore you with. You all have copies of this report. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Honorable Dongba Mensem is also a member of the International Federation of Women Lawyers Plateau State Branch, where she served as chairperson, public relations officer, and national coordinator, Northern Zone at different periods. During deliberations, distinguished colleagues, Honorable Justice M.B. Dongba Mensem addressed the committee on a number of issues, such as her vision and aspiration for the judiciary, expeditious determination of cases, automation of the court in order to fast-track the administration of justice, conflicting decisions of the Court of Appeal, and judicial and justice sectors reform. In further interface with the committee, she demonstrated sufficient knowledge of the law and a firm grasp of contemporary legal and jurisprudential issues. She's an eminent jurist with high intellect and has passion for inclusive judicial governance and for upholding the integrity and independence of the judiciary. Our observations and findings. The committee, after the screening exercise, deliberated on the nominee's suitability for the appointment and made the following observations and findings. 1, that the appointment of the nominee satisfied the requirements of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, and the Senate Standing Orders 2015 as amended. 2, that Honorable Justice Dongba Mensem has the experience, comportment, exposure, and possesses the requisite leadership qualities of a judicial officer to effectively run the Court of Appeal. 3, that the nominee has the intellect and capacity to exercise restraint and uphold the dignity of the court and the litigants in the discharge of our official functions. 4, that there is no petition against her nomination for appointment as the Honorable President of the Court of Appeal. 5, that she was appointed as the acting President of the Court on the 6th of March 2020, a position she held until her nomination for appointment by Mr. President as the substantive President of the Court. And finally, that the nominee is a fit and proper person for appointment as the Honorable President of the Court of Appeal. Our recommendation, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, having screened the nominee and being satisfied about her exposure, experience, performance, qualifications, and competence, hereby recommends that the Senate do confirm the nomination of Honorable Justice M.B. Dongban Mensen, JCA, for appointment as the Honorable President of the Court of Appeal. I so move, Mr. President, and I thank the leadership and our colleagues in Senate for entrusting us with this responsibility. Thank you so much.
Senator Ike Ekwaramadu.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. I'd like to use the opportunity to congratulate the nominee, Honorable Justice Dongban Mensen, on her appointment. With this appointment, she's making a record as the first female judge or justice to take over from another female judge or justice in the federal court in Nigeria. I'd like to congratulate our women, because I believe with this, it is visible that they are making progress in the right direction. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, let me use the opportunity too to commend Mr. President for keeping the finest tradition of the bench and appointing the most senior judge to replace the head of a court when vacancy occurs, as they have occurred in this one. I think this will help to maintain some decorum and consistency in the ascendancy of judges in this country. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I believe that we'll be considerate enough to confirm this appointment. And when that happens, I would like to see the new President of the Court of Appeal do certain things. Because she's only 63, she'll have about 7 years to preside over the Court of Appeal. That is sufficient time for reform of the Court of Appeal and to join forces with other heads of court to see some visible reforms in our judiciary. I like to see within a period of our headship of the Court of Appeal some level of consistency in the judgments coming from the Court of Appeal, especially in the election matters. Because today, we have different jurisdictions of the Court of Appeal, we have certain different panels handling election petitions. What we see as politicians is that when this election tribunals sit and judgments are given, especially at the Court of Appeal, we are not even sure what the judgment will be, because the decision of the Court of Appeal in a particular division is not binding on another division. So these are giving rise to inconsistencies and contradictions. So I would like to see a situation where the President of the Court of Appeal will be able to work with our colleagues to ensure consistency and no kind of contradiction in the judgments coming from this very important court. Again, the issue of election petitions and matters that have to do with leadership in Nigeria and indeed elsewhere are usually very controversial. So I would like to suggest
that the new President of the Court of Appeal, by the grace of God, to be able to work with our colleagues, heads of court, and other stakeholders to establish a constitutional court within the period she'll be serving as the President of the Court of Appeal. This will help to insulate the other courts and other judges and justices from matters that have to do with leadership, so that they can concentrate on other matters that are also very, very important. But in other jurisdictions, I think the format today is for them to have constitutional court to deal with very important constitutional matters, especially the ones that have to do with leaderships arising from elections. In that way, they don't get into the controversy of who becomes president ultimately or who becomes governor, so that they can do their work independently. So I'd like to see these and other reforms. And as I said earlier, because she has sufficient time, 7 years, that's enough time to push and succeed in pushing reforms necessary to make our judiciary, move our judiciary forward. So I support her nomination, and I urge that the rest of us do support this nomination. So that is my submission, Mr. President. Thank you.
Senator Jones, Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President. My highly respected colleagues, James Ebiowo, Manager, Delta South. Mr. President, this report is of course being supported by almost everybody. The nominee, Honorable Justice N.D. Dongbam Mensah, is eminently qualified for the job. A round peg, a round hole. Mr. President, due process is also being followed as far as this appointment is concerned. From the National Federal Judicial Service Commission to National Judicial Council, the due process has been followed. And therefore, since the nominee appeared before the committee, and the committee has adjudged the nominee to be eminently qualified for the job, there is no other debate on the floor of the Senate. The nominee, let's just go ahead to confirm the nomination of Honorable Justice Dongbam as presented by the committee. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity.
Senator Gabriel Suswam.
Yeah, Mr. President, I'm Dr. Gabriel Suswam. I rise to support the report as presented by the chairman of the legal committee. Mr. President, as a member of the committee, I participated in the screening of this great legal mind. Mr. President, this is a woman who is not just experienced in law, she's experienced in administration as well. From her CV, she rose from the rank of Deputy Registrar of the High Court to Registrar of that High Court before she was appointed a judge. She was appointed a judge in Jos, in Plateau State, and then proceeded also to be appointed in the same court with the FCT court. Mr. President, this is a very experienced woman. She has gone through the ropes. And so, Mr. President, the report as presented by the chairman is apt. The report captured comprehensively who this woman is, and the conclusion of the chairman that she is fit and proper to occupy that position cannot be overemphasized, Mr. President. This is a fit and proper woman for that position, and I believe that based on that report, Mr. President, there is no argument as to the qualification of this woman. I think this Senate, I will urge this Senate to unanimously approve the appointment of this great legal mind. Mr. President, I so submit.
Senator Emmanuel Bacha, Deputy Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Emmanuel Boacha. I represent Taraba South. Mr. President, I want to say that I have not had the privilege to meet Justice Dongbam Mensah one-on-one, but I have had several testimonies about her capacity to dispense justice without fear or favor. And I think preponderance of opinion across board reflects this, that she is eminently qualified for this position. Let me take this time, Mr. President, to congratulate the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, because why I'm saying this, there is nothing good and germane as not being able to predict a leader. If what people are thinking, leader act otherwise, this is very, very uncommon, and I think the President deserves commendation. I want to commend him. This is a spectacular feat because Nigeria is a very complex country. And if you don't act like that, people will always take you for granted. This singular act has won many people, more disciples for the President. Thank you, Mr. President. I concur with this recommendation.
Please, this is just a report, so I will take the last person, Senator Uche Ekunefe.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Uche Ekunefe. I represent Anambra Central. I'm from Anambra State. Mr. President, first of all, let me appreciate in a very special way Mr. President, the President of this country, for nominating and sending Honorable Justice Menson to the Senate for confirmation as the President of Appeal Court. Mr. President, I have the privilege of meeting this woman inside the court as a presiding judge of Enugu. Mr. President, in this woman, I saw what professionalism is all about. It's difficult for you to have someone that has stayed as president of Appeal Court in a particular area for years without being dragged into one controversy or the other. I see her as a very upright judge. I see her as a professional judge. I see her as a committed and very hard-working judge. I see her as someone who has the capacity to hold and preside over Nigerian appeal courts. And also see her as someone who has the capability and capacity to dispense justice in Nigeria. The essence of going to court, Mr. President, is to seek for remedy. And in this woman, I know, and I can confirm from what I have seen already, that she will dispense justice the way justice is. It's not just dispensing it, but dispensing in such a way that you will know that you have gotten justice from the court of law. Mr. President, this appointment, it is good. This appointment is credible. This appointment is acceptable by majority of Nigerians.
Give me a round up, please.
On behalf of my constituents, I want to congratulate her, congratulate the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and congratulate judiciary. Thank you.
Senator Ebikule Amosun, and then the owner of the senatorial district, Senator Gian.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ebikule Amosun, I represent Ogun Central. Mr. President, I'll be very brief, just to say that I have the privilege of knowing her and actually working with her when she was the presiding judge of the Court of Appeal Ibadan. And we had reason to meet a couple of times. I can confirm that she's very professional, very humble, very thorough judge. And I have no doubt in my mind that she will add value to the dispensation of justice, particularly at the very important Court of Appeal. So I can only wish her well. And I know that she has, just like what one of my colleagues said, that she still has about 7 years to go. Enough time for her to bring about reforms and changes that will improve the dispensation of justice in this country. Thank you, Mr. President.
Lastly, Senator ID.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain Senator I.D. Giang of Plateau North, Plateau State. Mr. President, I rise with gratitude in my heart concerning the confirmation of the nomination of Honorable Justice Dongbam Mensam to occupy the office of the President of the Court of Appeal, the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I want to deeply appreciate the chairman and members of the committee for doing a very great job in the screening of this very nominee. And to use this opportunity, Mr. President, to thank the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for picking and nominating this very eminent daughter of Plateau State, who has demonstrated capacity in the judiciary, rising to the very position that she is today, and that by your grace and the grace of distinguished senators would shortly be confirmed into this very eminent position. Mr. President, I want to appreciate distinguished colleagues for the very eloquent remarks that they have made in favor of this daughter of Plateau State, this citizen of Nigeria, that by the grace of God will sincerely, honestly, and competently dispense justice in this nation. And Mr. President, I want to use the opportunity again to deeply appreciate this very committee and for the job they have done, and to wish this daughter of Plateau State that today, by the grace of God, passes through this Senate to do for the nation that which will add value to the justice system of the nation. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, distinguished colleagues.
Thank you, Leader of the Senate. Committee of the Whole.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move the motion for this distinguished Senate to resolve into the Committee of the Whole to consider this report. I so
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second that we revert to Committee of the Whole.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolves into Committee of the Whole to consider the report, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues will do the approval here. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Honorable Justice M.B. Dongbam Mensam for appointment as the Honorable President of the Court of Appeal? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, I rise to move a motion for the resumption of plenary to progress report. To report progress.
Minority Leader. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate reverse to plenary for the child to report progress, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate, in the Committee of the Whole, considered the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the screening of Mr. President's nominee for appointment as the Honorable President of the Court of Appeal and approved the nomination of Honorable Justice M.B. Dongbam Mensam as the Honorable President of the Court of Appeal. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Honorable Justice M.B. Dongbam Mensam for appointment as the Honorable President of the Court of Appeal? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Honorable Justice M.B. Dongbam Mensam is hereby confirmed as Honorable President of the Court of Appeal. Well, congratulations to the Honorable Justice. Let me join all our colleagues who contributed or commented on the report of the committee, and of course the extolling of the virtues of the nominee. The judiciary needs a lot of reforms. The National Assembly, this Senate particularly, is available at all times to provide this kind of legislative support and intervention that will be necessary for the reforms. So we are available, and we wish her a very successful tenure, and the justice system in this country must protect the weakest, particularly amongst us. That's the essence, without prejudice to those who are very powerful. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Federal Character and Intergovernmental Affairs on the screening and nomination of James Gia John Kolo for appointment as Commissioner in the Federal Character Commission. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Anjuma Taylor, Chairman of the Committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Senator Anjumala.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. I am Senator Anjuma, representing Kaduna South. That the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on the Committee on Federal Character Commission and Affairs, confirmation of the nomination of report of the Committee on Federal Character Commission and Intergovernmental Affairs on the confirmation of the nomination of James Gia John Kolo for appointment as Commissioner of the Federal Character Commission. As also moved.
I need Senator Kejof, you second the motion for the Senate to receive and consider the report of the committee on.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, Jeff, I represent Benue Northwest. I rise to second the motion Assembly move. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate receives and considers the report of the Committee on Federal Character and Intergovernmental Affairs, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You may let. Chairman, you may present the report.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. Report of the Senate Committee on Federal Character and Intergovernmental Affairs on the screening of the nominee for confirmation and as Honorable Commissioner, Federal Character Commission. The Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria at the sitting on Tuesday, 2nd June 2023, 20, consider the request by the President for the confirmation of the nomination of Mr. James Gia John Kolo as Honorable Commissioner of the Federal Character Commission and refer same to the Committee on Federal Character and Intergovernmental Affairs for further action via votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 2nd June 2020. The nominee details are James J. John Kolo, member, Kwara, new appointment. For thorough clearance procedure, the committee requested the Office of the Special Advisor to the President on National Assembly matters the following documents in respect of the nominee: curriculum vitae, relevant academic certificates, clearance letter from State Security Service, police report on fingerprint search, assets declaration, income tax clearance certificate. The nominee was invited for screening on Tuesday, 9 June 2020. The committee went through his credentials, curriculum vitae, state security, asset declaration, and income tax clearance certificate. Asked relevant questions related to his education, working experience, and current affairs to which the nominee was not found wanting. The nominee answered all the questions satisfactorily.
Committee recommendation.
Okay. Arising from the screening exercise, the committee noted as follows. James G. John Kolo was born 12 August 1965 in Patigi, local government area of Kwara State. He attended Lady LSM Central School, Lady from 1974 to 1979 for his first primary school leaving certificate, and later proceeded to Lafiagi Teachers College, Lafiagi, where he obtained a teacher's grade 2 certificate in 1985. He proceeded to School of Health Technology, OFA, and attend National Community Health.
Chairman, are you going to abridge this thing? Because it's just one nominee and the paper is like representing 10 people.
The committee recommends James G. John Kolo's nomination by Mr. President is in accordance, in consonance with Section 14.3 of the Constitution and in line with Section of the 7.1 and 2 of the Third Schedule of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. Also, the nominee has successfully scaled through the holders of relevant screening and was found to be administratively, academically, and politically equipped. The committee therefore considered James G. John Kolo eligible and suitable for appointment as substantive honorable commissioner, Federal Character Commission, subject to the approval of the state, of the Senate. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, in line of the above, the committee recommends that the Senate do confirm the Honorable Commissioner nominee, James G. John Kolo, as substantive Honorable Commissioner, Federal Character Commission, representing Kwara State. We so recommend, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, the committee expresses its gratitude for being given this opportunity to discharge this assignment. Thank you, sir.
Any comments? Leader of the Senate. Committee of the Whole.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move the motion for the chair to, for the Mr. President to move the Committee of the Whole in order to consider this report. So,
Minority Leader. Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that we move into Committee of the Whole to consider this report. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolves into Committee of the Whole to consider the report, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, we go to approval. Will the Senate approve the nomination of James G. John Kolo for appointment as Commissioner in the Federal Character Commission? Those in favor will say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move a motion for the chair to resume plenary to report progress. I so move.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that this Senate do revert to plenary to report progress. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the chair reports progress say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Federal Character and Intergovernmental Affairs on the screening of Mr. President's nominee for appointment as Commissioner of the Federal Character Commission and approved the nomination of James G. John Kolo as Commissioner of the Federal Character Commission. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you. Confirmation. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of James G. John Kolo for appointment as Commissioner in the Federal Character Commission? Those in favor will say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The confirmation, the nomination of James G. John Kolo is hereby confirmed as a Commissioner in the Federal Character Commission. Congratulations to him. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fourth order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Foreign Affairs on the screening of the following persons for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. 1. Chikezi Ogbonna Nwachukwu, Abia. Alex N.N. Kefa, Adamawa. Gabriel Mustafa Okoko, Benue. Aisha Mohammed Garba, Borno. Asari Edem Aloti, Cross River. George Ehidi Ahmed, Odokpa, Esquire, Edo. Adamu Ibrahim Lamua, Bombay. Abubakar Muhammad Sarki, Jigawa. Yakubu Abdullahi Ahmed, Jigawa. Suleiman Dauda Umar, Kaduna. Gambo Yusuf Hamza, Kano. Nur Abbarimi, Katsina. Imfawa Omini Abam, Cross River. Lami Sauda Remawa Ahmed, Katsina. Muhammad Manu, Kebi. Ikekem Regina Ocheni, Kogi. Ismaila Yusuf Abba, Kogi. Mistura Abdurrahim, Kwara. Wasilat Abimbola Adedeji, Lagos. Obinna Chidu Onua, Onowu, Anambra. Ebebike Stephen Agnana, Bayelsa. Oga Usman Ali, Nasarawa. Sefiu Olukaode Olania, Ogun. Abiodun Richards Adelaja, Adejola, Ogun. Olawale Emmanuel Awe, Ondo. Ibim Inkem Charles, Rivers. Zakaria Malam Ifu, Taraba. Raymond Odofe Brown, Akwa Ibom. Godfrey A.E. Odugdigo, Anambra. Ahmed Sule, Kano. Olukayede O. Aluko, Oshun. Victor Adekule Adeleke Esquire, Oyo. Martin Senkom Adamu, Plateau. Bukar Buni Hamman, Yobe. Anderson Nekemakonan, Madubuke, Enugu. Nat Augustine Kolo, MNI, Niger. Ismail Abayomi Alatishe, Oshun. Yakubu Santuraki Suleiman, Bauchi. Benayoha Bernard Messi Okoyen, Belsa, Innocent Alauma Ewejo, Imbo, Aishatu Aliu Ewejo, Niger, Mukhtar Ibrahim Bashir, Borno. Distinguished senators will recall that the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief was referred to the committee on Tuesday, 12th May 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Adamu Muhammad Bulkachua, Chairman of the committee, to move a motion for the presentation and consideration of this report.
Distinguished Senator Adamu Muhammad Bulkachua.
Mr. President, my name is Senator Adam Muhammad Bulkachua, Chairman, Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs. A report of the Committee on Foreign Affairs, confirmation of nomination of the following persons for appointment as career ambassadors designate. That the Senate do receive and consider report of the Committee on Foreign Affairs on the confirmation of the nomination of the following persons as appointment as career ambassadors designate. The list is long, there are 42 names on it. Thank you.
Senator James Obio, Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues. I rise to second the motion as moved by the Chairman, Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs, Senator Mohamed Adamu Bulkachua. I beg to second. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate receives and considers the report of our Committee on Foreign Affairs, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Chairman, you may lead the report, please. Chairman, you may present the report, please. Maybe the executive summary.
Mr. Senate President, sir, executive summary, screening of report of 42 career ambassadorial nominees. Power of the Senate. Section 171, subsection 4 of the 1999 Constitution, as amended, states the powers of the Senate thus: an appointment to the office of an ambassador, high commissioner, and other principal representatives of Nigeria abroad shall not have effect unless appointment is confirmed by the Senate. Introduction. Pursuant to the above constitutional provision, on Thursday, 12th May 2020, the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, at its sitting, considered the request of Mr. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, for the confirmation of the nomination and appointment of 42 nominees to serve as ambassadors of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The Senate will recall that in accordance with its rules, Senate Rule 118 and 131 accordingly referred for further legislative consideration of the request to this committee via referral letter from the clerk of the Senate, reference NAS/R/03/285, dated 19th of May 2020, and mandated it to screen the nominees and report its recommendation within 2 weeks. Mr. President may recall that within the 2 weeks granted by the Senate, the committee could not accomplish its screening, and therefore we requested for 2 more weeks. However, before the expiration of this week, the 2 weeks, we now present the report. And we had screening challenges. The committee was faced with challenges of COVID-19 pandemic that resulted in lockdown and restriction of movements across the globe, as well as the ban on international flights and travels. The committee was also made to understand that 23 of the nominees were at post in different Nigerian missions abroad, as only 19 of them were in Abuja. The situation around the world has made it impossible for the ministry to physically present all the nominees to the committee for the exercise. The committee accordingly resolved and conducted the screening via virtual communication network for the nominees at post, while those based in Nigeria appeared physically before it for the exercise. All the nominees were assessed in line with the following criteria: appearance, composure, presentation, special skills and experience, knowledge of diplomacy, and general knowledge. Requirements for appointment as ambassador. All the 42 nominees acquired sufficient standard of education and qualification and qualified them for the nomination. They were equally cleared by the Nigerian Police and the Department of State Security Services as persons eligible for appointment as ambassadors of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Each of the nominees, all of which are career foreign service officers, were noted to have been paying taxes and as and when due, as well as complied with the provisions of the Code of Conduct Bureau. Findings of the committee. The 42 career ambassadorial nominees have a long track record of service in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, spanning over 23 years. They exhibited high pedigree of international relations and diplomacy, cutting across local and international postings, both at home and in different Nigerian diplomatic missions abroad. It is of strong note to say that their appearance, presentation, confidence with the effective use of skills required in the course of time, their knowledge-based have convinced the committee of their readiness to be deployed and serve as ambassadors in any Nigerian mission abroad. All the 42 nominees are replacements for the Foreign Service officers, ambassadors that have retired from the Foreign Service after putting in 35 years in their career or have reached the requirement age of 60. Recommendation. The committee has carefully and thoroughly screened all the 42 nominees. It is satisfied with their qualification, exposure, conduct, character, experience, and general performance. All the nominees have displayed acumen, in-depth understanding of what is expected of them as foreign service officers. Against this background, the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs hereby recommends the 42 career ambassadorial nominees to the Senate for confirmation of their appointment as High Commissioners, Ambassadors of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Prayer that the Senate do confirm the nomination of the 42 career ambassadorial nominees for confirmation of their appointment as ambassadors, high commissioners of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Details are on the main report, sir. Thank you.
Any comment? Leader of the Senate, Committee of the Whole. Okay, comment. Senator Okejef.
Thank you, Mr. President. Not exactly a comment, but I've seen that 40 and 41, the surnames appear to be the same. I think this is a mix-up if you look at the... So if it is not, I stand corrected. But 40 and 41.
Chairman. Yeah, in the report, I think it's in the order paper that you have that repeat of the surname. But in the report, I think they reflected it correctly. So it's the order paper. Clerk, please take note. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I move that the distinguished Senate resolves into Committee of the Whole to consider this report.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that we resolve into Committee of the Whole to consider this report as so second.
Thank you. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolves into Committee of the Whole to consider the report, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Kajov, in the report, number 40 is Innocent Alama Iwejo from Imo, and 41 is Aishatu Aliyu Musa from Niger. All right, thank you. Distinguished colleagues will do approval here. So we'll go through all the 42 names for approval. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Chikezi Ogbonna Nwachukwu for appointment as Career Ambassador Designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Alex Enan Kefas for appointment as Career Ambassador Designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Gabriel Mustafa Okolo for appointment as Career Ambassador Designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Aisha Mohammed Garba for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Asari Edem Alote, Mrs. for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of George Ehidiamen Edokpa Esquire for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Adamu Ibrahim Lamwa for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Abubakar Mohammed Sarki for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Yakubu Abdullahi Ahmed? There is a problem here, Mr. Chairman. 8 and 9 reading Jigawa. Okay, there are 2. Okay, both of them from Jigawa. Okay, I will put the question now. On number 9. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Yakubu Abdullahi Ahmed for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Sulaiman Dawda Umar for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Gambo Yusuf Hamza for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Noura Abarimi for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Mofwa Omini Abam for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Lami Sauda Remawa Ahmed for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Mohammed Manu for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Ingekem Regina Ocheni, Mrs. for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Ismaila Yusuf Abba for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Mistura Abdurrahim, Mrs. for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Wasilat Abimbola Adedeji for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Obinna Chedu Onou for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Ekpebike Steve Agnana for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Olga Usman Ali for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Shafi'u Oluka Ode Olaniyo for appointment as career ambassador designate. Those in favor of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Abiodun Richards Adejola for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Olawale Emmanuel Awe for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Ibim Nkem Charles for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Zakaria Malam Ifu for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Raymond Udofe Brown for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Godfrey A.E. Odidigbo for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Ahmed Sule for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Olukayode O. Aluko for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Victor Adekule Adeleke Esquire for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Martin Senkom Adamu for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Bukar Buni Hamman for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Anderson Nkema Konam Madubike for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Nat Augustine Kolo MNI for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Ismail Ayobami Alatise for appointment as career ambassador designate those of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Yakubu Santuraki Suleiman for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Bena Yaga Bernard Mese Okoyan for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Innocent Aloma Ewejo for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Aishat Aliyu Musa for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Mukhtar Ibrahim Bashir for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move a motion for Chair to resolve to plenary in order to report progress. I so move.
Secretary, deal with that. Take note. So those in favor that we revert to plenary for the charter for progress, say aye, please. Oh, you have not seconded? Oh, okay. Please second.
Now that I've been given a chance to second, I second the motion that we revert to plenary to report progress.
Those in favor of the motion that the Senate reverts to plenary for the charter for progress, say aye. And those against, say nay. Minority Leader, you know you have been seconding this for a long time. So distinguished colleagues, the Senate and the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Foreign Affairs on the screening of Mr. President's nominees for appointment as career ambassadors designate and approved the nominations of Chikezi Ogbonna Nwachukwu Abia, Alex Enan Kefas Adamawa, Gabriel Mustafa Okolo Benue, Aisha Mohamed Garba Borno, Asari Edem Alote, Mrs. Cross River, George Ehiedemin Edokpa Esquire Edo, Adamu Ibrahim Lamwa Gombe, Abubakar Mohamed Sarki Jigawa, Yakubu Abdullahi Ahmed Jigawa, Suleiman Dauda Umar Kaduna, Gamba Yusuf Hamza Kano, Nura Barimi Katsina, Mufa Omini Abam Cross River, Lami Sauda Remawa Ahmed Katsina, Mohamed Manu Kebi, Ingekem Regina Ocheni Mrs. Kogi, Ismaila Yusuf Abba Kogi, Mistura Abdurrahim Mrs. Kwara, Wasilat Abimbola Adedeji Lagos, Obinna Chedu Onowu Anambra, Ekpe Bike Steve Agnana Belsa, Oga Usman Ali Nasarawa, Shafiu Olaka Ode Olanion Ogun, Abiodun Richards Adiojola Ogun, Olawale Emmanuel Awe Ondo, Ibim Inkem Charles Rivers, Zakaria Malang Ifu Taraba, Raymond Odofe Brown Akwa Ibom, Godfrey A.E. Odudigbo Anambra, Ame Sule Kano, Oluka Ode Aluko Oshun, Victor Adekule Adeleke Esquire Oyo, Martin Senkom Adamu Plateau, Bukar Buni Hamman Yobe, Anderson Nkema Konam Madubike Enugu, Nat Augustine Kolo Emenai Niger, Ismail Ayobami Alatishe Oshun, Yakubu Santaraki Suleiman Bauchi, Bernard Ha Bernard Mese Okoyen Baelsa, Innocent Alama Iwejo Imo, Aishat Ali Musa Niger, and Mukhtar Ibrahim Bashir Borno as career ambassadors designate. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you. Confirmation. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Chikeze Ogbonna Nwachukwu for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Chikeze Ogbonna Nwachukwu is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Alex Enan Kefas for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Alex Enan Kefas is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Gabriel Mustafa Okolo for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Gabriel Mustafa Okolo is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Aisha Mohammed Garba for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Aisha Mohammed Garba is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Asari Edem Alote Mrs. for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Asari Edem Alote Mrs. is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of George Ehediamen Dokpa Esquire for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of George Ehediamen Dokpa Esquire is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Adamu Ibrahim Lamua for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Adamu Ibrahim Lamua is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Abubakar Mohammed Sarki for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Abubakar Mohammed Sarki is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Yakubu Abdullahi Ahmed for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Yakubu Abdullahi Ahmed is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Suleiman Dauda Umar for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Suleiman Dauda Umar is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Gambo Yusuf Hamza for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Gambo Yusuf Hamza is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Noura Abbalimi for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Noura Abbalimi is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Mafwa Omini Abam for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Mafwa Omini Abam is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Lami Sauda Remawa Ahmed for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Lami Sauda Remawa Ahmed is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Mohammed Manu for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Mohammed Manu is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Ingekem Regina Ocheni Mrs. for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Ingekem Regina Ocheni Mrs. is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Ismaila Yusuf Abba for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Ismaila Yusuf Abba is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Ms. Tura Abdurrahim, Mrs. for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Ms. Tura Abdurrahim, Mrs. is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Wasilat Abimbola Adedeji for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Wasilat Abimbola Adedeji is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Obinna Chedu Onowu for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Obinna Chedu Onowu is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Pebike Steve Agnana for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Ekpebi Steve Agnana is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Olga Usman Ali for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Olga Usman Ali is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Shafiu Olukade Olaniyo for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Shafiu Olukade Olaniyo is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Abiodo Richards Adejola for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Abiodo Richards Adejola is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Olawale Emmanuel Awe for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Olawale Emmanuel Awe is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Ibim Nkem Charles for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Ibim Nkem Charles is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Zakaria Malan Ifu for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Zakaria Malan Ifu is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Raymond Udofe Brown for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Raymond Udofe Brown is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Clerk. Yeah. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Godfrey A.E. Odudibo for appointment as career ambassador designate? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Godfrey Odudibo is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Ahmed Sule for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Ahmed Sule is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Olukayode Aluko for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Victor Adekule Adeleke, Esquire, is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Martin Senkom Adamu for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Victor Adekule Adeleke Esquire is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Sorry? 30. Ahmed Sule. We finished with that. Now we are going to next. Oh, sorry. We didn't do 33. Is that what you mean? Okay, supposed to be 33. 3 again. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Martin Senkom Adamu for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Martin Senkom Adamu is hereby confirmed as career ambassador of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Leader of the Senate, point of order.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I come under Order 13 with view to its suspension in order to extend time to continue with our proceedings. I so move.
Minority Leader, you can second twice.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that we suspend our Order 13 to enable us sit beyond 2 o'clock say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Leader. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Bukar Buni Hamman for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Bukar Buni Hamman is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Would the Senate confirm the nomination of Anderson Nkema Kwanam Madubike for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Anderson Nkema Kwanam Madubike is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Would the Senate confirm the nomination of Nat Augustine Kolo for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. The nomination of Anderson Nkema Konam Madubike is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Nat Augustine Kolo for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Nat Augustine Kolo is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Sorry? Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Ismail Ayobami Alatishe for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Nat Augustine Kolo is hereby confirmed. Oh, okay. Sorry. I've taken us back. It's supposed to be 37, right? 37. The nomination of Ismail Ayobami Alatishe is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Yakubu Santuraki Suleiman for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Yakubu Santuraki Suleiman is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Banao Yaga Bernard Messe Okoye for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Banao Yaga Bernard Messe Okoye is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Innocent Aloma Weju for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Innocent Aloma Weju is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Aishatu Aliyu Musa for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Aishatu Aliyu Musa is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Mukhtar Ibrahim Bashir for appointment as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Mukhtar Ibrahim Bashir is hereby confirmed as career ambassador designate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. This is a marathon confirmation. Let me congratulate, on behalf of all of us, congratulate the nominees, and we wish them very successful tour of duty when they'll be finally appointed and posted. At the moment, many of embassies don't have the ambassadors or high commissioners. I will therefore urge the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to ensure that they process the postings as quickly as possible. We need to have our interests protected in those countries. We have very strategic reasons why we should be represented properly in some of these countries particularly. And the absence of the ambassadors and high commissioners make it difficult for a proper representation or even dispatches to the fatherland. Congratulations to all of them once again. Leader of the Senate.
My highly respected and distinguished colleagues, having concluded the proceedings on the order paper today, I hereby move that the Senate adjourn until 3 o'clock later in the day to enable us approve the order of proceedings. Vote of proceedings. 3 o'clock. We are aware that the House of Representatives, there is an amendment that they need to pass, a motion that they need to pass before we consider it. So that's why I'm giving another 30 minutes for our convening to take the order of proceedings. So I would suggest that we adjourn for about an hour and come back to pass the order of proceedings at 3 o'clock. I so move.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, he has already seconded. Before I put the question, the leader has explained why we have to adjourn and come back. In any case, we are supposed to pass our votes and proceedings today to ensure that everything that we have done, particularly the budget, all the confirmations we have done, would have received the final legislative intervention from us, and therefore should just go directly to the executive side of government. But in addition to that, we have something important that the committees on finance on both sides of the National Assembly chambers need to address. In the House, they are supposed to take a motion, and in the Senate too, we will take a motion. But we have arranged that the House will take theirs first because they passed the budget before we did. They passed theirs yesterday. So I will plead with us that we adjourn for this time. We go out for our lunch and our prayers, and then we will reconvene at 3 o'clock so that we are able to complete the process. With this, so with this, I put the question. Those in favor of the motion, moved by the leader and seconded very well by the minority leader, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate is adjourned until 3 p.m. Thank you.